December 1st, 1993. The air hung heavy over Medellin, thick with humidity and dread. The city, once vibrant and bustling, now seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the inevitable. The streets were quieter, the people more cautious, as if they could sense the tension that gripped the city. Pablo Escobar, once the undisputed king of cocaine, was a hunted animal. His empire, built on fear and violence, was crumbling around him. The man who once commanded armies of loyal followers now found himself alone, with only his paranoia for company. Gone were the days of extravagant parties and open displays of power. The lavish mansions, the fleets of luxury cars, the endless supply of money and influence, all had vanished. In their place was a life of constant fear and uncertainty. Now, every hour brought him closer to the abyss. Each tick of the clock was a reminder of his impending doom. The once invincible drug lord was now a man on the edge, teetering between survival and destruction. His world, once vast and opulent, had shrunk to a handful of safe houses and the ever-present fear of betrayal. The walls of these hideouts seemed to close in on him, suffocating him with their oppressive presence. Every creak, every shadow, every unfamiliar sound was a potential threat. The walls were closing in, and the hunter's net was drawing tight. The authorities were relentless, their determination fueled by years of bloodshed and terror. They would not rest until Escobar was captured or killed. Escobar paced the confines of his hideout, a cheap, nondescript house far from the luxury he once enjoyed. The stark contrast between his past and present was a constant reminder of his fall from grace. The man who once ruled with an iron fist was now reduced to a life of squalor and fear. His face, once youthful and arrogant, was etched with anxiety. The lines of worry and stress had aged him beyond his years. The weight of his actions, the lives he had destroyed, the enemies he had made, all of it bore down on him, leaving him a shadow of his former self. Sleep was a distant memory, stolen by worry and the constant threat of capture. Night after night, he lay awake, his mind racing with thoughts of escape, of survival, of the family he had put in danger. The darkness of the night offered no solace, only a deeper sense of dread. The man who once held a nation hostage was now a prisoner of his own making. His empire of crime had turned into a cage, trapping him in a life of fear and isolation. The power he had once wielded so effortlessly was now a distant memory, replaced by a desperate struggle to stay alive. The phone, once a symbol of his power, was now his greatest enemy. Each ring sent a jolt of fear through him, a reminder that his enemies were always just a call away. The device that had once connected him to his vast network of allies and informants was now a tool of his potential downfall. Every call could be traced, every conversation a death sentence. The risk was immense, but so was the need to stay connected. The isolation was unbearable, the silence deafening. He needed to hear the voices of those he loved, to know they were safe, even if it meant putting himself in greater danger. But it was also his only lifeline, his only way to reach his beloved wife, Tata, and his children. The thought of them kept him going, gave him a reason to endure the fear and the uncertainty. They were his anchor, his reason to fight on. He knew he couldn't stay silent forever. The need to connect, to hear their voices, was too strong. The risk was great, but the alternative was unthinkable. He couldn't bear the thought of losing them, of being cut off from the only source of comfort in his life. He had to reach out, to hear their voices, even if it meant risking everything. The sound of their voices was a balm to his tortured soul, a reminder of the love and the life he was fighting to protect. In those moments, the walls seemed to recede, the fear to lessen, if only for a little while. Just a day earlier, Escobar had celebrated his 44th birthday, but there was no joy, no lavish celebration, only the bitter taste of fear and paranoia. Even in his self-built prison, La Catedral, danger lurked around every corner. He knew his empire was crumbling, his lieutenants turning against him, their loyalty bought by the highest bidder. He had always ruled with an iron fist, but now his grip was slipping. Two of his most trusted men, suspected of skimming profits, were dragged before him. Their pleas for mercy fell on deaf ears. Escobar, his eyes cold and unforgiving, delivered his own twisted birthday present, a bullet to the head for each traitor. The executions sent shockwaves through the underworld. It was a desperate attempt to reassert his dominance, a reminder that Pablo Escobar still commanded fear. But it was a hollow victory, a Pyrrhic act that only served to fuel the firestorm gathering around him. The killings at La Catedral were the final straw. The Colombian government, under immense pressure from the United States, could no longer tolerate Escobar's reign of terror. Extradition to a US prison, a fate worse than death in Escobar's eyes, loomed large. He knew that in a US prison, he would be stripped of his power, his wealth, his very identity. He had always prided himself on his control, his ability to manipulate and outmaneuver his enemies. But now, he was trapped, caught in a web of his own making. The Americans were relentless, their resources seemingly limitless, and they were closing in, their every move tightening the noose around his neck. The thought of spending the rest of his days in a cold, foreign cell, far from his family and his beloved Colombia, was unbearable. He had to find a way out, a way to escape the clutches of his enemies and secure the safety of his family. But time was running out. Section 4. A father's desperate plea. Escobar's thoughts turned to his family, his beloved Tata, his son Juan Pablo, and his daughter Manuela. In the midst of chaos and violence, they were his anchor, the light that guided him through the darkest of times. They were his world, his reason for fighting, his only solace in the encroaching darkness. Every decision he made, every risk he took, was for them. The love he had for his family was the one pure thing in his life, untainted by the bloodshed and corruption that surrounded him. He knew they were in danger, targets of his enemy's wrath. The thought of harm coming to them was unbearable, a nightmare that haunted his every waking moment. He had to protect them, no matter the cost. He had to protect them, even if it meant sacrificing himself. The weight of this responsibility was immense, a burden that grew heavier with each passing day. But Escobar was determined, driven by a fierce, unyielding love. Desperate to make contact, he took a gamble, a risk that could cost him everything. He knew the odds were against him, but he had no choice. His family's safety was at stake, and he would do whatever it took to ensure their well-being. He placed a call to a local Medellin radio station, his voice a mix of defiance and desperation. This was his last resort, a final attempt to reach out to the people of Medellin, to plead for their understanding and support. He proclaimed his innocence, painting himself as a victim of his enemy's lies. He spoke with conviction, his words a blend of truth and manipulation, designed to sway public opinion in his favor. But it was his message to his family that resonated with the people of Medellin. In that moment, he was not just a notorious drug lord, but a man, a father, a husband, fighting to protect those he loved. "Tata, mi amor, I love you," he said, his voice cracking with emotion. "Be strong, stay together." His words were a lifeline, a beacon of hope in a sea of despair. Don't let them break us. It was a plea for unity, a call to stand firm in the face of adversity. Escobar's message was clear. No matter what happened, they had to remain united. It was a message of love, but also a plea for understanding, a reminder that Pablo Escobar, the ruthless drug lord, was also a husband and a father. In that moment, he was stripped of his infamy, revealed as a man driven by love and desperation, willing to do anything to protect his family. Section 5. The hunt intensifies. The air was thick with tension as the Colombian National Police search block gathered around a large, detailed map of Medellin. Every street, every alleyway was scrutinized as they meticulously planned their next move. Escobar's radio message, while intended for his family, was a grave mistake. The message, filled with coded language and hidden meanings, was intercepted by the relentless forces hunting him. It was a slip that would cost him dearly. It gave his pursuers what they had been waiting for, his location. The map now had a new mark, a pinpoint that signaled the beginning of the end for the notorious drug lord. Colonel Hugo Martinez, the man who had dedicated his life to bringing Escobar down, listened intently, a grim smile spreading across his face. The hunt was on. Martinez, a seasoned veteran, knew that this was the moment they had all been waiting for. His eyes gleamed with determination as he briefed his team, outlining the plan with precision and clarity. Martinez assembled his team, a special unit of the Colombian National Police known as the Search Block, trained and equipped by US intelligence. These men were the best of the best, hand-picked for their skills and unwavering resolve. They had undergone rigorous training, preparing for this very moment. They were aided by a shadowy group known as Los Pepes, a vigilante organization funded by Escobar's rivals, the Cali cartel. Los Pepes, driven by their own vendetta, brought a ruthless efficiency to the hunt. Their tactics were brutal, their methods unorthodox, but their results were undeniable. They were ruthless and efficient, driven by a thirst for revenge and the promise of a hefty reward. Escobar's days were numbered. The members of Los Pepes moved with a singular purpose, their eyes cold and calculating. They had one goal: to see Escobar fall. Every phone call, every move he made, brought them closer. The net was tightening, and Escobar could feel it. Surveillance teams monitored his every move, tracking devices zeroing in on his location with increasing accuracy. He was surrounded, a rat in a maze with no escape. The city of Medellin had become a labyrinth, with every exit blocked, every escape route cut off. The walls were closing in, and Escobar knew it. He knew the end was near, but he vowed to fight to the bitter end for himself, for his family, for his legacy. In his final moments, Escobar's defiance burned bright. He was a man who had built an empire from nothing, and he would not go down without a fight. The stage was set for a final, explosive confrontation.